Dr. Risher works with Justin Fields, and we're going to learn about their relationship, what they do, because frankly, we don't know. Dr. Risher, thank you so much for the time. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. How about you? Thanks for having me on.
Oh, thank you for coming on and your willingness. So what do you do? Can we just start like as generic as
Yeah,
possible, please? Like kind of explain what you do for our audience, where your areas of expertise lie.
absolutely. So I started with a background in sports performance. Started strength and conditioning programs in a couple high schools. Worked with a bunch of pro and amateur athletes back before chiropractic school. Realized my scope of practice wasn't enough, so I took all of that strength and conditioning, sports performance stuff, and then went and got the medical degree of chiropractic to go along with it. And so basically, what I do is sort of supplement what the team does. So they have great strength and conditioning staff, great athletic trainers over there. And then we kind of can go above and beyond and do the things that they might not have time for because they have such a high volume of guys. And so we do all of the things that I watch the film, see where Justin maybe needs to improve, see the hits that he takes, and then same with all the players, and then kind of go in, do the body work, do the focus training, the hand eye coordination, the whatever we have to do to prep them for their games. And then outside of that, we do have our own clinic, and we do a lot of pain management and injury prevention there.
So you work with Justin Fields, Jalen Johnson, Eddie Jackson, Jaquan Brisker. How'd you get hooked up with the Bears, and who else do you work with?
Yeah, so I think we're at about like 15 to 20 guys on the roster this year that we're working with. And honestly, it was COVID shut everything down, and the players needed people to help take care of their bodies because they couldn't get into the facility. And so one of the guys, Demetrius Harris, back in 2020, reached out to me, asked if I could come do some home visits, and started meeting the guys. It was snapping to Mitch Trubisky 3 days a week in the offseason as they're doing their throwing sessions. Guys tweak something here or there, and it's like, hey, give me 2 visits and we can get this better. And just word of mouth starts to steamroll, and that's where we are now.
All right. So obviously, Justin Fields is the person that most people are the most interested in, us included.
Yeah.
What made you interested in what Chase Daniel had to say when you were listening 2.5 hours ago?
Yeah, so I listen to what all these like quarterback coaches and pro quarterbacks have to say about Justin because I played defensive back in high school and college, and so I come in with a defensive mindset and what the defense wants to try to do to him. But I don't quite understand the X's and O's of offense quite as well. So I was listening because I loved that sort of insight. And as soon as people start talking about his processing and things that I can actually understand as far as football goes, that's where it's like, okay, you can kind of have a picture of what's going on just based on watching the film. But Justin's processing skills are very high level, and he's only improving his processing skills. And it just kind of stuck out that like these quarterback coaches are recognizing his improved processing, but Kevin Lapka said, "Oh, it's too bad it's not repeatable." And the thing is it is repeatable. Like the speeding up and the processing, it is repeatable. It is a repeatable process. It's called the flow state, and that's kind of what's missing from the football analyst side of things. Is they see all the X's and O's, they see the footwork, they see the arm work, but they don't quite understand like the neurochemistry and kind of that whole flow state. They've been in it. They've been in you might call it the zone. They've been in it, but they don't quite understand why it's repeatable and why it's actually very important.
So Fields is in the zone right now. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, you saw him get in the zone last year, and kind of what we say is flow begets flow. So the more you get in it, the more you can have of it, the easier it is to access it. And basically, when you're in a game, there are a bunch of external triggers and internal triggers that you can use to get in the flow state. And I think he's just at a point where he's accessing that at a really high level. And part of what everyone was talking about for a while there was saying there's a lot on his mind. Part of being in the flow state is what's called hypofrontality, and it's where all of the unimportant stuff just fades to the background, and you're able to focus on only the important things. So when there are too many things going through an athlete's mind, there's actual brain chemistry going on there that makes it hard for them to perform at a high level. And so as you're able to just focus on the important points, everything else becomes easier.
When did you realize that he had arrived in that flow state? Because he just happens to have played excellently throwing the football the last 2 weeks. Did you notice this flow state hitting like 2 weeks ago when the bleep was hitting the fan?
Yeah. So you can see him kind of. Everyone calls him like a streaky player. Like if he gets hot, he stays hot. And that's part of him getting into flow. And what I think really happened is um, his mind cleared up, and he got extremely focused, and kind of was able to. Him and the coaching staff were able to drown out the outside noise. And he said something to me that really sparked this. Is he described a play, and if you've listened to his interviews, he describes plays in incredible detail, but he described an entire paragraph thought that happened in a hundredth of a second in his mind. And that just doesn't happen regularly. That's not something like you and I are having this conversation and we're thinking of every thought as it comes to our minds. He's got a hundredth of a second to make a decision, and he had an entire like full conversation with himself in that time. And that was when I realized, like, oh shoot, this guy's processing insane amounts of information so fast. And the fun part is it is repeatable, and it's up to him to continue to do that, but it's very much repeatable for him to keep this processing, as fast as it is, and even improve it.
Dr. Michael Risher, owner of Chicago Rehab Lab, who works with Justin Fields and other Bears, is our guest. So help us understand, like when he was saying that it was too robotic, he was playing too robotic, it felt like he had maybe been being overwhelmed with information. And now you're saying he has elite processing at a rate at which you've never seen. So how do those two things coexist?
Yeah. So you can be overloaded with things, and basically the more simplified things are in your mind. Some of it comes with preparation. The more you prepared, the better you prepared, the more comfortable you are, the easier all that stuff is. But as things are simplified in front of you, when there's a clear, concise goal, concise is really important. A clear, concise goal, it's much easier for you to enter that flow state. And so part of that is every athlete has a different tolerance for the amount of information they can handle in a given instance. And I think they're probably just finding the right amount of information that is right for him, that allows him to process unbelievably fast. And so I think he has sped up in the 2 games that you've seen it. I think the coaching staff and him have found that right kind of mix for him of amount of information he needs.
What is an example of something that you do in terms of helping them to process better? And you mentioned focus training. Without getting too technical, what is that? Like, what are you doing to actually help this quarterback, which I'm sure Bears fans love hearing?
So some of the things are novelty. And I heard Danny talking about one of the drills where we had Justin spinning and throwing the ball. Some of it's
Yeah.
novelty, trying to, like, part of getting into the flow state. One of the external triggers is novelty, something that we haven't encountered before, unpredictability, and then a lot of like high risk, high consequence stuff. And so some of what we do is like, let's introduce a new stimulus, probably like 105% of your capacity. Like we're in the basement, and he's having to turn around and throw the thing and not put a hole in his wall. So there's a little bit of risk there, and we kind of make it more difficult. And then that again improves his ability to process just in that physical scenario. And then you go out and you say something like, all right, let's have you throw more risky throws. Let's have you practice more risky throws. All of a sudden you start to get the adrenaline, the norepinephrine into your system, these neurochemicals, and now you can start to get into the flow state more easily.
So Justin Fields is processing information in your experience of working with however many professional athletes that you've worked with. At what level comparatively?
I mean, I've seen a lot of high level processors where people can break down the play, like, oh, here's what I saw, but he's explaining things that, like, you'd really have to have 30 seconds to fully capture the thought if you were to say it out loud, and it's happening in a hundredth of a second. And that's the fastest I've ever witnessed personally. I've read books about people who process that fast, like these adventure athlete sports where they accomplish something, and then you ask them what happened, and they give you a 30-minute story of what happened, and it's like, how did all of that happen in the blink of an eye? And so he's really processing insane bits of information in hundredths of a second.
So as we're talking to Dr. Risher here, how many days a week do you work with Justin Fields?
Kind of depends on the week, anywhere from like 1 to 5.
1 to 5. Okay. How has he been the last 2 weeks compared to the first 2 weeks of the season?
You definitely see like he's having more fun.
Yeah, me too.
He's me as well. He's definitely having more fun, and I think that's a big piece of it. And I think there's a relaxed nature, where like I don't know, he just kind of feels go with the flow, almost like not to continue to say flow, but like kind of go with the flow. Like I'm just ready for whatever presents itself, and relaxed and having fun.
So maybe this is an unfair question. You can tell me if it is. You said that you were snapping to Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah.
Okay. How did he process compared to Justin Fields?
So I didn't get to see as much of the in-game stuff or ask Mitch as much. It was definitely there's definitely a different feel in the confidence level between the two. Like when something would go wrong, you can kind of just see the response. It's hard to say. I can tell that Justin's processing things a lot faster than Mitch and a lot faster than, pretty much everybody in the world. There's definitely a difference. I don't know how to quantify it, but
yeah,
you can definitely tell a difference there.
Okay, so like the other ways that so you help with processing by turnaround, fire at a target, quick reaction time, things like that. So how do you measure progress? Like how can you tell that he is getting better, I guess?
You start to see some of the stuff in a game. You start to see some of the things that you work on in games. And then a lot of it is through conversation. As you're talking to the players, you can see how quickly they're thinking, how much is on their plate, how fast they're processing everything. And that's a lot through conversation. The unfortunate thing with a lot of what we do is it's not like the weight room where you put in X input and you get X output. It's a lot more it's a lot more up and down, and there aren't hard markers.
Well, so but can you give us an example of like something that you saw in game that you were like, oh
yeah,
that's what we were working on?
Absolutely. Eagles game last year when he had that run down the sideline, we were working on his head control, leading with his head for a spin move. His spin move has sucked, and he got injured on it several times, and so we're literally working on leading with the head, and we rep that. We do it in a ton of different ways, and then the situation comes, and it just happens, and he doesn't think about it. He's repped it so many times, it's become second nature that his body just said, hey, this is what we're doing, rips the head around, and then pulls that nasty spin move. Unfortunately, he stepped out of bounds, but it was one of the better runs that I've seen. And so you see that sort of a thing physically, and then you have conversations after the game, and you're like, all right, what did you see? What was happening? And then the breakdown of what was happening is, unbelievable detail for something that happened in a split second.
You talk to Justin after every game?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. When it comes to passing, are you helping with footwork and or mechanic repetition in any way?
No. I like to say I can, work with movement patterns. I can make you stronger. I can make you a better athlete. I'm not a skills coach. So, I can identify flaws that he has on tape. We're like, hey, you were missing down and away. Here's this movement pattern. Let's see if that sticks. And then we correct that. And, now he's not missing down and away anymore. That sort of thing. But I never get into mechanics with players.
Okay. Interesting. So he's happier. It's more fun, more relaxed, and the processing is elite. Like, has he talked to you, I guess, about the confidence part of it? I guess my question is, Doctor,
yeah,
we are trying to figure out if a switch has been flipped, like if what we've seen here is sustainable or if it is, frankly, a statistical aberration because it's been 2 great games out of 30 in terms of passing the ball. What do you think, if I put it in those terms, of a light bulb has gone on, a flip has been switched, he's figured it out, it's clicked, whatever? How would you respond to that conversation?
I would say it's very possible that that's, like that this is the new normal, that something switched. He and the coaching staff figured it out, and then this is just where we're at.
Does he think
impossible
that?
for me to yeah, absolutely. And he's never lacked the confidence. I will always sustain that Justin Fields is going to have success in the NFL, and it's going to be very high level success. And I do believe we're seeing that. He's done the physical stuff that he can do is unlike anybody I've ever seen, and you guys have seen that. And the way that he describes the mental stuff and that processing stuff is like just new level right now. He has to maintain it. The flow state isn't something that you just stay in always, but when you can repeat it and when you kind of figure that out, what your routine is and what's going on in your mind, it's much easier to, drop into that flow state again and again and again.
No, you got to keep him in the zone, doctor. You got him in the zone. We're going to depend on you every week. Don't let down now. Keep him in the zone. Flow state.
We'll keep it up for sure.
Okay.
For sure.
All right.
Man, so you were what can you tell us about our guy Jalen Johnson?
Oh, I love Jalen. He's doing great. He's recovered really, really well. And honestly, like very fast for this. Not like, oh, you're looking at re-injury, but he's done very, very well with this rehab.
All right. Brisker?
He's hilarious. Love that guy. He's doing great. This is he's someone that I was joking with him. I was like, dude, I don't want to see you in the blue medical tent anymore. We gotta like every single game we're in there, and it's like, shoot, we got our work cut out for us. But he's doing really great. And a lot of these guys that we're working with right now, I would say this is the healthiest they've been in these 5 games. Just overall, everyone's banged up, but the guys that we're working with, like, we really have kind of gotten in a groove where everyone's pretty healthy,
including Eddie Jackson.
I think so.
All right, well, that's good news.
Obviously, can't share any HIPAA protected stuff, and I don't know any of the team.
No, I know you're not disclosing active or injury report stuff.
We got you covered on the HIPAA. Don't worry. We got you.
All right. Interesting.
Yeah.
Dr. Risher works with Justin Fields 1 to 5 times a week, talks to him after every game. Thank you, sir. This was very interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime you guys have questions, don't hesitate to reach out.
Yeah, I mean, we might call you every week.
Yeah, I mean, we got to keep him in the zone, man.
Yeah. You got to you keep him in the zone, and then you tell us what he's feeling, and then I'll
still
know.
In the zone, right?
Yeah, is he in the zone? I'm going to bet it's over on his props.
Exactly.
Saturday night, we're bugging this guy.
He's in the zone, yeah. I'll get your number. I'll text you on the side. Is he in the zone? All right, thank you, doctor.
Yep, you got it. Have a great night, guys.
All right, yeah, you too.
Take care. I love that idea.